stories here, except for Scrappy now.
Oh, Scrappy. Is he the one that took the tree top off?
It's pretty hard for him to authenticate anything of mine, you know.
Greg, do we need
Could you hold the chair head a little bit for us,
a
sir?
little closer to the rest of the gang?
I think it's
We
on
on,
the
so we on?
No,
This guy, Scrappy moved away. Want to stand up a little bit? There you go. Whoa.
Oh, all right, good.
You understand how he is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Okay, Lee, you said you had something that you wanted to,
Hold everything, hold everything.
no.
Miss America just walked in.
Scrappy, we warned you about that now. No more jokes.
Oh,
God bless America.
Scrappy? Is this Scrappy?
hey, you play your cards right and you can end up with me.
Okay.
I might even let you take me home for a plaything.
Anyway, Lee, you said you...
Well, anyway, I said I had a story, but it was customary with the pilots, you know, not always did they trust their crew chief. When they took off, they didn't know whether the damn plane was in good shape or not, you know. So they thought they would impress upon us the importance of having this plane in shape, that they took the radio out and stuffed our rear end in the radio compartment and took us up for a little ride. Well, Scrappy first he took my assistant up, Jess Mendoza, and Jess said, well, you know, he cruised around once or twice and landed. And then he took me up, and Scrappy said, what do you want to do? And I said, anything you want to do. So he did all kinds of chandelles and stuff, you know, and I don't know, I think we got up to about 10,000 feet and put it in a power dive, and he pulled it out, and he blacked out. He didn't know he blacked out, but you know, the damn plane, I was watching the altimeter, and it slowed down, you know, to 190, 80, 60, 70, on down to when it hit 50, it did a whip stall. You know, and now we're headed down straight for the ground. He's blacked out. So he comes to, of course, and pulls it out, and we circle around and we land. And then we look at the airplane, and the tail end of the airplane, the horizontal stabilizer, was wrinkled. You could have scrubbed your clothes on it, you know. And so we decided, well, we'll get another airplane. So I think we got another airplane, you know, for that something. But anyway, we said it happened in combat. But that was that deal. So, but anyway, from then on, Scrappy never, you know, he never worried about whether or not the plane was in shape, you know, because it was always had it in good shape for it.
I can say this truthfully, I flew 100 missions, they're over, and I never had to abort a single one, come back for any reason at all. So I had all the confidence in the world in my crew chief.
Yeah.
I didn't dare to tell him not to because he'd have got the big head. And it'd been hard to control.
There was a close bond between the crew chiefs and the pilots.
Yes,
You know, there really was. I mean, every time they take off, you sweat them out till they get back. Made damn sure the plane's in good shape. There was one time in the month of March, I think, and I don't know whether it was in Reims or Metz or where, but there's snow on the ground, ice on the runways.
It was Reims.
And we threw ice cream salt out all over the runways to melt the ice so the planes could take off for a mission. They all did, you know, and came back, and 2 or 3 days later they developed hydraulic leaks. And every, you know, aluminum tubing in the wheel wells of the planes started leaking, just raining down hydraulic fluid. We had to become plumbers and change all that stuff for them. They were grounded for a couple of days for us to get all that done for them.
So you liked having him as your pilot, if you will?
Sure. I trust him for, you know, he's crazy enough to do anything, and brave enough and whatever. Everybody in the outfit knew this guy, you know, because he was an ace on his first mission there, practically. I think that was his first mission, wasn't it?
No,
Or his first dogfight. Yeah. But anyway, we were all very proud of him, and I felt very honored to be his crew chief, you know. So.
He didn't always bring the airplane back, though, did he?
No. One time he didn't show up for a while. He just got back, and I asked him, I said, what happened? He said, well, you got shot in the wing out here, boom, 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 and one came between his legs. That made a Christian out of him. He rolled it over and jumped out of that thing.
Yeah, well, you know, he had the planes were expendable, but the pilots weren't. So.
Absolutely, right. How many do you have?
Huh?
How many planes do you have?
5.
Right.
I was American 8.
Oh, I know you were.
How did you lose 5 of them, Scrappy? How'd you lose 5?
How did I lose them? Well, some of the other boys helped me lose one. The one guy landed one, remember?
Yeah.
Billy did in. And then, of course, I got, the time as I got shot down, there's a couple that we donated to the Germans.
Yeah.
And, huh?
And didn't we get another plane though when you came in and buzzed the runway and bent the props back? And
Oh, yeah, that was right off the bat. Yeah. Yeah, I came in to land, and I know damn light, well, the light was green. But some crazy guy was standing down there with a red light on the runway. And I could see there was nobody around, so I went ahead and landed. Or tried to land. And it caught all 6 props and curled them.
he took off.
And I took off with it.
Clang,
Well,
clang,
sure.
clang, clang around you.
And it just bounced and jiggled around all the way around.
Yeah.
And I pumped the wheels down.
Yeah. He kept, we never knew what to expect, you know, when he came back. I think while we were still in England, you know, the pilots would try to bring home a little green in the oil coolers down there, you know, in the radiators of the oil coolers.
From the trees.
And then, over in France, he brought back a good bit of power line one time with him, hanging onto the plane. So.
Lost the wing.
Kept us busy.
Lost the wingtip that day.
You sure did. Cut it right off, didn't you?
Yeah.
Just confirmation of a previous story, Scrappy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Now we know your story was true. Your crew chief verified it.
Yeah. Everybody saw the wire hanging on the gate.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't lie. You know, unless the price is right.
Henry, what did you do for the unit over there?
Well, I think they run me around everywhere. I came in the outfit as a basic trainee, and I worked in the orderly room a while, and then I went to group headquarters for switchboard operator, and then I got back to my own squadron switchboard operator for a while. And then I finally got him to change my spec number to radio mechanic, and I never saw inside of a radio school, but that kind of mechanic I learned how to do it. And each time I was running around with a telephone lineman, stringing telephone line and repairing them. And then other times for me to die, the time Scrappy shot on his 5 that day, but I didn't get time to get up on the ladder that day to open the canopy for him. He was already out there and asking the CO across the next pad, where in the hell was you at when all that was going on? I remember that one.
These guys are superstitious too, you know. A lot of them carried a little trinket on board with them. I think he had a little penknife hanging on the side of the cockpit inside there for a good while.
Or somebody
Something
else.
happened to it, it got lost. But you'd always give him a salute, and I'd always touch his left wing when he'd take off, you know.
You see, what a lot of people didn't believe, I was a safe, sane, conscientious, conservative, and considered pilot. You know, and I flew by the book.
How come we can't get any confirmation on that, Scrappy?
Now,
Only one response, thank you.
Yeah, lying.
Clarence, what did you do?
Well, I was the crew chief, like most of them. And I don't have all kinds of stories like that. Only July 4th, 1944, my airplane came back with 144 rounds of different types of ammunition in it. That was one of those low-level strafing jobs. And I spent the next 2 weeks fixing that airplane. But that's the most thing I can remember.
Who was the pilot of your airplane?
My pilot was Donald Buchanan, and he put in 25 missions and went back to the States. And well, of course, we had other pilots. He didn't fly the plane every time, only when it was his turn to fly. I lost 4 planes. 2 because they never had dive brakes on them that went right into the ground when they was bombing. And the last one, I sent back to Okinawa. And we got a 47 in place of it, D-47. Then we had a lot of fun, but it was heck too.
You were there when they transitioned them from the out of 38s.
Well, I started with my first experience was at Santa Rosa, California. That's where I joined 367
With the 39.
with a P-39.
Yeah,
We went
down
from
in
there
Culver.
to Oakland, the naval base there in Oakland. And then from there, we took the train all the way across the states.
When did we go to Tonopah? Was that before then?
Oh, yeah. I didn't get in on Tonopah or, what was it, Hamilton,
Yeah.
where you were? No, I joined the outfit at Santa Rosa,
Yeah.
and we was only there about maybe a month before we went to Oakland.
Santa Rosa was in the middle of a vineyard, and the runway and the buildings and everything were painted like grapevines. And the air indicators and orderly room, everything, there was a building, a hull of a building rolled out on tracks over them. You know, and the guys would take off and they couldn't find the field coming back. They'd have to land somewhere else, you know.
They're always hiding things on you, weren't they?
Well, I can't remember too much about that other than looping the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
Flying the flat top of the Lexington
Was
inverter.
you in on buzzing Kezar Stadium
Huh?
in the Rose Bowl game?
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
Kezar Stadium,
Yeah.
3 airplanes
Little
buzzed
steamer
out.
I was lucky that day. It was Billy Howard and one other kid. 3 of us were going to do it.
Yeah, 3 did.
They were having the big football game in Berkeley. And we were going to pull streamers out of the bowl. And we'd gone on a training mission and come back, and my airplane wouldn't run, and I couldn't get another one. So the other 2 boys did. And they took the band that was on the field at the time and laid them on the ground. That's how low they were, and pulled the streamers out. They both got course markers.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So you was lucky you wasn't
I
there.
wasn't in on that one. But I flew to Lexington, inverted,
Yeah.
at 15 feet, with a 39.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody told you or not, but we did go to Tonopah for some field training up there in the dead of winter. It was cold, cold, cold. We lost 1 or 2 pilots. I think maybe just 1 pilot up there. And that was some very interesting
Yeah,
experience
Tonopah.
up there.
I shot up the water tower in mine in Nevada. I remember that.
What'd you do
Chuck
that for?
Yeager had that in his book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What had happened, I was coming over the hills and I thought my gun switches were off. And we were taking a beat on everything, you know. It didn't make no difference. Take a beat on it, you know, practicing. And I took a beat on the water tower. I was only about 20 feet off the ground. Coming through town, I pulled the trigger and about 7 shells left and went right smack through the water tower. 7 white horns coming out of it. I laid it on its back and headed home and got my car and a couple boys with me, and we went back to Mina. And before the night was over, we changed the color of the nose of the airplane We changed the number on it, and the Marines in Hawthorne got the blame.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't there.
All I know is whenever you weren't around, you was off doing
I'll
something.
tell you another funny one. I pulled in the Furnace Creek in Death Valley with 39, and I landed on the highway. And I taxied into the service station and climbed out and went in to have a cup of coffee and a piece of pie. And the guy come up to me and he says, "Give us a buzz job when you leave." I said, "Well, I can't do that because that's against the rules, you know." And he said, "Well, don't worry about it." He says, "I'm the sheriff in this country." I said, "Okay." I said, "If you're the sheriff here and you go down the highway and stop the traffic a mile down there, then I'll take off back down the highway and I'll give you a buzz job." So he did. And I just laid those orange trees right on the ground. They didn't even have to pick them. We used to go up to Death Valley Scotty too, you know, and we'd buzz him twice. And then he'd drive up the hill to the dry lake, and we'd land in the dry lake, and then he'd haul us down to the castle, and then we'd sit there and shoot the bull with him. He was a great conversationalist, you know, old Scotty. And for 2 hours, but we had to be careful that we didn't stay longer than our gas supply. Because if our gas supply only lasts so long, and we don't show up at the base, then they go looking for us, say, we'll get in trouble. But if we come back with full tanks, they don't seem to say anything. And we did that more than once. Oh, Scotty. But he died on us. He was a pretty nice old guy.
So you
Well,
went,
who else?
Clarence, you went over to, you were at the first group that went to Stony Cross then, when you went over first to England?
Well, was Stony Cross A2?
No. Stony
I
Cross
hit
is-
A2 first.
Yeah, I know it.
I went up the big hill
Yeah.
and right over to A2. And,
You didn't go across the channel on a...
no. I flew,
You flew in
yeah.
A2?
No, we did go across the channel in,
And Liberty Ship.
LST,
Liberty Ship.
Liberty Ship?
Yeah, down in the hull.
Yeah,
Liberty
that's
Ship.
right. Yeah, then I got up and went up the hill.
Landed on LS. We crawled out of this Liberty Ship after about 5 days waiting, you know. We was just sitting offshore out there waiting to go ashore. And the weather was bad. You know, this was for landing. But we're sitting out there, and above us was barrage balloons hanging onto our ships. And then above that, way up about 40,000 feet, you know, it'd be Bedcheck, Charlie, and all those guys coming over to work and everything, you know. And then our guns were trying to shoot those guys down. We had one guy on our ship that got hit, and they put him aside and sent him back to England. But we crawled out of that thing and went down the ladder onto LSTs, and then we landed, crawled off LSTs, and disappeared in the water with your gun sticking out. Crawled ashore and went up the side of the hill over the other side of the pillbox and on up to on top. We camped the first night on a cow pasture.
Yeah, I
And
remember
all the
that.
guys, see, these guys didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Then,
No.
And listen, man, they had to dig holes in the ground out there in the cow pasture, you know, put a shelter half
I don't know, our
over, shoot a
conditions
few
were pretty
cows
rough.
because they didn't know their password that night, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You guys camped out in Chateau up there
Well,
somewhere.
I'll tell you another little story that was kind of interesting. We moved into France. This is the first night we were there. We're on this trip. And, of course, we run into some stuff called Calvados. Or Calvados.
Calvados.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a...
Well, see, we knew nothing about it, and we didn't know how to handle it. All we knew was canteen cups, you know. Fill them up and chug a lug. Well, I got a little bit too much of this thing, and I was out with the Jeep. And when I came home, don't ask me how, because I don't know. I can't remember. But I come home with a donkey and a cow tied behind the Jeep. So then I didn't know what to do with this cow. The donkey was a good pet. So there was an airborne squadron that had just put in our runway where we landed. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I took the cow over there and I said, what are we going to do with this cow? And the guy says, well, we'll make a stew. So I said, okay. So I brought the cow over and they butchered the cow and cut it all up in chunks. Got two 55-gallon drums and put them on some rocks and started a fire, and then they sent 50 guys out to procure some vegetables, you know, see, borrow them from this one and that one.
French.
And so we got this all stew going, and it cooked for 2 days, and god damn, it was good. Oh, it was good.
That was 82nd Airborne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, I didn't run into the 82nd again until one day we just moved to Le Mans.
Okay.
Well, in order to get my donkey moved to Le Mans, I had to take a belly tank and cut 4 holes in it and shove the legs down and a little hole for air, you know, to move my donkey to Le Mans. And I got the donkey to Le Mans, all right. And that was on a Saturday, yeah. Then on Sunday morning at 3 o'clock, we get a mission to go to Metz and drop our bombs. And then we're supposed to go over to Verdun and bomb up and gas up again, go back to Metz, and then back home because it was so far, see? So we made it to Metz and dropped our bombs and got to Verdun, and here's the 82nd Squadron that put in the runway. And they said, you guys haven't run into Champagne yet. Oh, no. Well, let's try it. So we all loaded in the truck and went to town. And we was sitting there drinking that champagne with no pain, you know. Comes 1 o'clock and the gendarmes French were going to close the joint up, see, because they always closed it from 1 to 2 in memory of the Frenchmen that were prisoners of war and stuff, you know. I said, no way, you ain't shutting this joint down. I'm the commander of this bunch. So they stood out in the door, wouldn't let nobody in or nobody out. Well, when we got all through, we got a whole bunch of this champagne and loaded in the truck and went back to the base. Well, now we're too late to go to Metz. So we take the bombs back off and put belly tanks on so we can place our champagne in the belly tank to haul it home. And I never forget, we were about 30 miles and that old formation was just going like this, you know. Everybody was all over the sky. And they called the tower. And I said, give us a good show. We got a good crowd. Remember that?
No, I'm fading on that one.
Well, I'll tell you, that runway was 5,200 feet long, and those people were 100 feet deep on both sides of it the whole way, and every woman in that crowd had a knapsack with a bottle of Calvados. And we came in to land, and they timed us. It took us from the time we come over the runway until we were all 4 sitting on the ground, 51 seconds. And then that's when the fun started. Viva la America, viva la
Right.
friends. Well, what we didn't know, it was Bastille Day.
Oh.
And this is the first time the French had seen the Allied airplanes. And they had come in coal-burning trucks and stuff like. One truck had made 25 trips hauling people in. And you know, the next morning, we couldn't fly a mission. We did. There were sleeping bags all over that field. Everybody was hungover. They had flowers on the airplanes. Oh, it was a beautiful sight. And I lost my donkey that night.
They had, for the enlisted men were going in, I mean, going from one base to another, one strip to another, and we were often found ourselves on what they call the Red Ball Highway. The Red Ball Highway was a one-way in and another one out. Y'all might know something about that. I remember one occasion being behind, there was an Englishman in a truck or something behind us, and he pulled ahead and stopped everybody because our fuel truck up ahead had a chain drag, you know, to make a ground contact grounding chain and make it spark. So they pulled up there and they made him take it off. But that highway was interesting, and I think there's a Red Ball trucking outfit in this country today, and I wondered if that's where it's a carryover
That's where you
from
first
that.
missed
Yeah.
getting over.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite a move, you know, from the coast way into Le Mans.
Did you guys all had to, I read that the planes leapfrog, so you had to go with them, right?
Yeah.
And so you'd go to work one day, one place, and then, Henry, did you have that problem? Did you have to go to another town the
Well,
next day?
I was usually on the last echelon. Part of them go up and set up things for a new airfield, and they got where they operational up there. The pilots didn't come back to the old field from a mission. They'd stop up there, and then we had to pick up the left overs and catch up right again. So we kind of bounced along that way.
But logistically, we were talking earlier, Patton, would run so fast.
That's true. They would take off, out off of one strip, and then we would head for the next strip where they would land.
And fill them up and get them ready for another one.
Fast.
I don't think other than
Sometimes they're going so fast we couldn't keep up ourselves.
Well, there was one place we was grounded for, what was it? We was grounded for a couple of weeks, weren't we?
And when we moved from Le Mans to Reims,
Reims.
Okay.
I remember the convoy that had all our gear in it, our clothes and stuff like that, had run into a captured sub-depot that had nothing but all different kinds of liqueurs and wines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they dumped all our stuff and traded 3 cartons of cigarettes for 7 truckloads. We had NSC 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, everything. Contro, Calvados, all of it.
And all kind of liqueurs.
Yeah. And they brought that. Then we set up our table and we had a row of wine about that wide, to go with our K rations and C rations. God damn. So when I went to get the Distinguished Service Cross, I didn't even have a blouse.
I know, I could.
I was so flattered that day that General Spatz had to hold me with one hand while he pinned it on with the other. I never forget telling him he wanted to buy me a drink, and I said if I never took a drink in my life before, I was about to start then. Well, he was a good guy. Well, I don't know what else to
It
say.
was interesting.
Well, that's good, that's good.
Other than I wish you guys all the luck in the world.
Well, we appreciate that.